Virtually, I was in charge of Holiday Inn University. I never would have been on that path until you go to a chart conference and you have this kind of impact. And of course, it's one of many, but this was a very significant one for me. As a person who's still trying to understand what hotel restaurant training is about, I went to San Diego and I meet Doug Gammon, who is past president. And Doug says, I'm going to be working on a conference for Monterey. It's at the Doubletree Hotel, but it hasn't opened yet. Well, I want you to help me with planning the conference. Doug, I've never planned a conference before. I've been to a lot, but I've never planned one. He says, well, it's a great learning experience. So as we're talking about what the conference is going to be, we go through the agenda. He says, on the closing day, we're going to have this guy, trainer. His name is Ken Blanchard. Anyhow, I had my doubts. So here we have a hotel that's not quite open. We have a program that we're putting together that I don't know anything about, but I'm the assistant conference person or whatever. Well, Ken Blanchard knocks the ball out of the ballpark, and I am so impressed. And of course, it was a great learning experience. And you're taking risks and you make mistakes. And at the end, people come up to you and say, boy, that was a great conference. And so it builds your confidence. But you're not going to get there if you don't give back or participate in some way, whatever it is, and do these things. So I come back to Holiday Inn University and I say to my boss, I want to get these materials on situational leadership. He says, Rick, every time you come back from a chart conference, you're always so excited, and this is a perfect example of it. So he says, just hold off and we'll see what we can do. And the weeks went by, and all of a sudden, he comes into my office, and this is one of the nicest bosses I've ever had. Well, he says, I just went with our new president, and we went to the YPO, Young Presidents Organization, and this guest speaker was Ken Blanchard. And he says, our president has now hired him as a consultant. So he says, I want you to go and order whatever materials you want. He says, because if the president is impressed with this and you were impressed with this, it's good enough for me to go and get the materials. That conference and the aftermath was the turning point in my career. I think I probably ended up with going to about 50 different conferences. I'll say at least every other conference I was doing some kind of a presentation, or I was on a panel, or I was making a fool of myself some other way, but the more you give to chart, the more you're going to get back. And I'm not the first person to say that, and I'm hopefully not going to be the last person to say that. I think these types of things that you can take away from a conference, little things or major things, makes no difference, helps you as an individual person in your company to establish better credibility. And that's what it did for me. Every time I had contact with people like Doug Gammon or Fred Parkin or whomever, really had a significant impact for me. Doug and I are still friends, and we probably have contact with each other on a weekly basis. So that's almost 50 years later. It has those kind of lasting friendships too.